We're here, we're queer, and we will continue to change the world. Welcome to Queer Changemakers. I'm your host, Justin Mezzapin, pronouns he, him, and each episode will share stories of LGBTQ plus individuals who are taking action to make a difference in our communities and beyond. Welcome to another episode of Queer Changemakers. Today we've got first in a series of 2 episodes, and we have 2 separate guests. So I'd like to welcome Ashley Carothers and Cathy Marcello from Modern Military to the show. So first off, would either of you like to tell the audience what Modern Military is, the organization, and a little bit about when it started?
Okay. Modern Military is a nonprofit that has been around in various iterations for the last 30 years. We're the largest nonprofit that advocates for LGBTQ plus service members, veterans, and their families. And I will say we're the only nonprofit that incorporates all 3 of those groups. And also, I do not want to leave out that we also advocate for those who are serving while HIV positive.
Okay. Awesome. Would either of you know a little bit more about the history, like when it started or who started it?
Yes. So Service Legal's Defense Network. Service Legal's, oh my gosh. Hello, English.
Service members, Legal
Legal
Defense,
Defense Network started in 93, I believe it was. They were serving all of our active duty military members, and then from there was a need for organizations separately that started, one that supported family members of active duty military members, and then one that started to support active duty military members that were serving kind of undercover. So under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So both of those organizations effectively started around the same time in 2009. So one of those was OutServe, that was for the active duty members. And then the group that started for family members was the American Military Partners Association.
So all of those organizations have come together as one.
Yeah, everybody doing such tremendously amazing work separately. Obviously, there was a lot of inner working together already. And so a lot of the mergers that have happened over the years, we all got to a certain point on the timeline where it made sense to have that conversation of, do we just become one? And so at first it was OutServe and Service Members Legal Defense Network that became one. And then we kept rolling. We also had Military Partners and Families Association that we also came together, merged. And then we had the larger merger of the 2 largest organizations. So what was known as OutServe SLDN and then AMPA, American Military Partners Association, got together in 2018 and decided we should merge into one larger group and just be the powerhouse network for all of these groups.
And the very last edition was just a few years ago, and that was we incorporated Mil Pride, which was for parents of LGBTQ youth in military families. So that was the last and latest edition.
So an enormous amount of years of just legacy service rolled into one.
And if I can brag real quick, since we're talking about the history, the Service Members Legal Defense Network was like instrumental in overturning Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And then when it was OutServe SLDN, they were instrumental in several court cases that eventually won, the ability for people to serve and progress in their careers while they're HIV positive. So there's like a really long legacy of effective change.
It's awesome seeing the work being done over decades and having some of these big legal wins and just wins in general. I might come back to it later, but the idea of organizations coming together so that the synergy is better than the individual organizations doing their own thing. Because for better or worse, believe and think that's going to have to happen this year and next year for us to make it through just the complete lack of funding that has hurt so many in our community and so many organizations. And I'm glad you said that. I'm sure it wasn't always easy combining groups, but it has been done. And I'm sure there are learning lessons there that we may need to put into practice moving forward.
Definitely.
I mean, since you're like on that topic, Justin, I'll say that even when we're not merging, we have found that working in coalition with like-minded partners in the last couple of years has been really, really effective, and we're stronger together. And we're finding not just community in that fighting together, but we're finding like strength and power as we like unify behind the causes together.
Yeah, that has been in the back of my mind all year in many of the conversations that I've had with people and just being in some of the rooms and some of these conferences. There's a lot happening. There's just so much happening. And if there are ways other people can, I don't have to fight every battle if other people are doing it. And if I do have to fight a battle, knowing that there's people beside me, like that can keep pulling us forward.
Definitely. Yeah. Our coalitions, they're organizations that are smaller staff wise, but our footprint is large. But combining our resources and our collective footprint just really helps us get that trajectory forward and a lot of the work done and trying to pick people up along the way too, right? That we meet because to your point, if the work is already being done, if somebody's already doing it, why reinvent the wheel? Just pick them up, support them along the way, and funnel resources as you have it to them because those resources are going to come back tenfold to you. So just helping each other is the biggest win.
That's fair. And I look forward to seeing that example in many other places as we continue to live, survive, and thrive, regardless of what's happening around us. So thank you for sharing that. But I'd like to hear a little bit more about both of you. So I don't know who wants to go first, but how did you get connected to modern military and maybe a little bit about your personal journey?
Definitely. My journey with modern military started actually with OutServe in 2009. I'm an Air Force veteran, disabled veteran, that started volunteering with the org in Germany with kind of chapter management, events, things of that nature, and then just kind of springboarded from there during our mergers to become the chapter overall program manager for the organization. At that time, we had over 86 chapters worldwide. And so they were just underground networks during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, where folks could find community in a safe space and get together. We created business cards so that way we could connect with each other. You'd be on base and see somebody, at the local coffee shop, think that they might be part of our community. You kind of walk up to them, pull them aside, have some sort of communication with them to see if they are family, and then slip them a business card of here, join our underground network that at that time was on Facebook that we could, it was trustworthy, so we could lock it down as much as possible, and you had to know somebody to get in. So from there, I stayed with the organization off and on over the years throughout my professional career and just trying to help the community stay strong, build that community connection so people know that they have a safe space to go. Because I've learned one thing during my career is that representation absolutely matters. So being seen and heard is just so powerful that it can create that change in culture, policy, and even win over hearts and minds. So that's what drew me to this work in the first place.
Awesome. I love that. It's like underground chapters because it wasn't legal or like, but also finding that community and even like the way we keep our community safe is not just having it private, but also being like you have to be invited in. As I think about moving forward and like my background's in tech, and right now there's a lot of complications in and around technology.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was our way to vet people. That way you knew that when you're bringing them into this space, you're trying to make it as safe as possible. And obviously, a safe space means different things for everybody, right? Everybody has their own definition of what their safe space is for them. But it was our way to vet. And then kind of seeing it transform, after the repeal, we were slowly starting to be seen even on base. And so building that rapport with installation leadership was our next big kind of hook for the organization. And we became a trusted agent, really, with base leadership. They would call us if they had questions, we would guide them. If someone came out to them, or if someone was being bullied in their unit, they would be like, well, how can I handle this? How can I best support them? And we became really instrumental after the first trans ban came down. People just reached out and said, I don't want to alienate anybody. I don't want them to feel targeted. I want to support them, but I don't know what the best support looks like for them. And so we were able to kind of handhold and train folks of how to show up for others and just be that leader that they needed and the support that they needed, especially when a lot of families were turning the other cheek. Even when we knew that the repeal was happening for Don't Ask, Don't Tell, we still had a number of folks on active duty that would call me and be like, my family just disowned me. What do I do? And my line to them was like, well, we're your family now. OutServe became that family for so many. So we continued that path forward even when we got the first trans ban down. So it was just really important for us to let installation leadership know that you need to support these people and this is how you do it appropriately.
Thank you for sharing that and for being there and helping do that, because it is hard sometimes to give people grace over time. But at the same time, seeing that humanity and being like, here's how we can navigate this together. There are some people, it's hard to say, who are in places of power and maybe enacting things that are not fair, yet also it's the way it is. It's what their role is to enact whatever is the law, whatever is happening. And it's a good reminder that even people in some of these positions are thinking of how to do things with compassion and moving forward and actually caring, because you don't always hear that as the loud voices out there. So how about you, Cathy? How did you get connected to the organization?
My story is really different, but I think there's some really like kind of similar themes along the way. So I am an Army brat. My dad served for 30 years. I'm an Army spouse. My husband served for like 26, and I'm the mom to a trans kiddo. And so I came into the org as a parent ally. My kiddo transitioned a million years ago, and we felt very alone. We were alone, and we didn't know any families like us, and we didn't have answers on how to navigate these like complicated military systems and moving from state to state. And there wasn't at the time like a network of support for military families with these kind of like unique needs. And then I was really lucky enough to come across Modern Military, who had just incorporated Mil Pride, which was this team of moms of trans kids who had navigated these really complicated situations. And they were like, we need to be in community because we'll be stronger together. Let's share our secrets for how to navigate these systems. Let's find our power to affect change together. And so, yeah, secret networks were born. And we were lucky enough in the last few years to have some real success in terms of helping military families with LGBTQ youth navigate moving across the country all the time, navigating new schools. And then as the state laws in the last couple of years really started to crack down on access to healthcare and rights at schools, we found like that the group became even more important as we tried to figure out how can you be a military family, continue serving the country, move to lots of different states in, this crescent of the deep south where like all these laws and the military installations kind of overlap, and giving families support trying to figure out how to thread that needle. And I'm so grateful and lucky to like the hundreds of families in this group that have all worked together to navigate this complicated system that we're living through.
I hear that and I'm just like, there are so many people going through this and who aren't part of the military, but navigating some of the similar things. So in my mind, it's like, ooh, I wonder if
Yeah.
the learning lessons that y'all have that
Mhm.
will apply.
It's
Mhm.
like there's nothing unique and different. It's just that we just happen to do it all the time, right? So it's like you think about dealing with the school system, but
Mm.
we're redoing that every 2 to 3 years. Or your kiddo is having to come out every 2 to 3 years.
Mhm.
And what happens with every move is you're going through those things again. And what we've also discovered is that on the parent side, folks who maybe have never had to deal with being an outsider are moving to new installations and they don't know if their neighbors are going to accept their family. And they haven't navigated that before. And so we try to be a landing ground for those folks who may have like lost community and show them that there's like a whole new community out there that is like open arms, welcome, and, gonna be their friendly neighbor.
Mhm. And a lot of our active duty military members are making choices actively as a family. Do they leave the family behind in one state that's safer for that family, for that child, for those children? And the active duty member goes to the new duty station, and we look at the effects there, right? And so the community that we have of support, it's it goes without saying, like, it's so needed, but yet we know that there's folks out there that still don't know about it that could be benefiting from this community and the support.
Okay. Yeah. That's a hard time. It's like, do you
Mhm.
bring the family? Do you not? And just navigating all of that. And it's good to do that in community. So I feel
Mhm.
like, especially this year, it's been a couple changes, maybe in all directions. And I don't know if anyone has answers, but sometimes it's just people with you on the journey. As
Yeah.
you ask the questions, and they're like, "Oh, I have the same question. You're not
Mhm.
crazy. That makes sense."
Yeah.
And maybe we'll figure something out. We can try something, and then like share the lessons learned. I'll
Mhm.
keep moving forward. So both of you are part of the organization. What are your current roles? Like, what does that focus on? What does that look like?
So I came in under the Families and Children program as like a program coordinator. And then I've been lucky enough over the course of the years to have a couple different roles. And now I'm just keeping the seat warm. I'm the interim executive director. And we should have a new executive director coming in real soon that we'll be excited to announce.
Okay. And can you go a little more as the families program coordinator?
Yeah, that's how I started. And then I was the deputy director for a while before this current role.
Okay. And just to be more specific, what is the main goals of that role?
So for a while, I was just coordinating the parent support group for the military families. And then I ended up running kind of all the programming. So I was the assistant director of programs, and I was running our support group for service members and their partners, as well as the family support group, and working Pride in DC and World Pride, kind of all our programming. And then I also do a lot of the administrative organizational background work, which
Okay.
is why I'm really excited to get our new ED in and share that load.
That's fair. That's fair. How about you, Ashley?
So right now, currently a board member for the organization, and it's unique because we have a few veterans, and we have a lot of active duty service members and family members that are a part of our board. So I try to stick my head out as somebody that's visible because a lot of them can't be visible right now,
Mhm.
especially with what's currently happening. And so they work behind the scenes. We all work kind of collectively behind the scenes to support the staff. So everybody has very different skill sets And so because we're such a small team, we have such a small staff, it's really important for the board to step up and assist where they can. So if there's something that the staff needs, we fill that void for them.
Awesome. So for each of you, is there a story you can share of maybe a proud moment over the past any iteration of the organization, but is there a proud moment where a story that you can share of just like, I'm so glad I was a part of this and I was able to see like this kind of change or impact?
Oh, I've got one. Can I start?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we were referencing working in partnership with similar organizations earlier. And so as we've kind of faced surmounting challenges, right? We wanted to show the kind of strength and power of this very unique LGBTQ military and veteran community. And so all those organizations came together at World Pride and we marched as one. And we also created a space for maybe folks who couldn't march under their own banner anymore, right? So maybe the Department of Veterans Affairs wasn't having their own float, right? But they could walk with us, or different government agencies might not be having their own organizational table anymore, but they could join us. And we all walked together at World Pride in strength and unity. And it brings tears to my eyes how powerful it felt to have that whole group walking together. And I'm really proud that we were able to bring and create a space for all these, we're like-minded, but we're also very disparate groups serving kind of different populations. We were able to come together and do that. That was like a really special moment.
I have about a million special memories with the org. Probably one that sticks out most, I want to say it was in 2018 before the murder, or maybe it was 2017. I went back overseas as a civilian, and the organization, we were able and privileged enough to have special status on base as a private organization. So that meant that we could fundraise and do certain things that other groups can't do on an installation. And I remember very vividly being approached one day by some base leadership, and they said, what we haven't had on Ramstein Air Force Base before is some sort of a pride party. And so we did a test run of an LGBT plus inclusive event that went off without a hitch, right? And so we called it the White Ties and Diamonds Party. And then because that was such a hit, they came to me and they were like, let's do something for Pride. We've got to do something for Pride. And I said, if we're going to do Pride, we have to have drag queens, right? And I was like, we need to honor past the folks that got us here. So I was like, I would really love to have some history pieces and elements into this celebration. That was such a huge success. So much so that the following year, months in advance, they kept asking me and poking me. They're like, are we going to do another event? Are you going to do another event? And so I said, yes, let's do another event. And of course, because we could advertise certain elements on or with certain entities on base, not everybody was in the know that that event had happened last year, but word quickly got around. And so there was so much talk about it that people were like, please do it again, please do it again. And so this time around, we packed the facility, our enlisted club is what we call it on base. So much so that when I walked out to introduce our entertainment, it was standing room only. And we had this catwalk above us that was for like an old DJ booth that they weren't using anymore. And that catwalk was packed with 2 lines of people deep. And I was just so impressed and thrown off by the amount of support. And the majority of the people in there were allies. And I'll never forget, it was the end of the evening. They even had me dress as a bio queen. I was dared by our Armed Forces Network radio station to do it. And somebody came up to me at the end of the night and they just hugged me and they cried and they were like, I've never been in such a space with this much community before. And I never thought that I would be visible, but tonight I was visible and I felt loved by everybody in this room. And they were like, it was just so powerful to see all these strangers come together to celebrate people that they don't even know and just to have a moment of celebration. And I was like, that's what it's about. That's what Pride is all about.
Yeah. At first, I didn't know where you're going, where you're like, well, we did it first time on the Hush Hush, and then people started talking about it. But they were talking about it in like a wait, I want to go. That sounds fun.
Yeah. People were coming out of the woodwork. You know, we were trying to get a pulse check because we were also providing like food for people.
Mhm.
And so we were trying to get a pulse check of how many people were going to come to this thing. And so we tried to make it as official on a low budget that we could, that we made these homemade lanterns, you know, like a VIP card that you would get, like if you're going to see the Queen Beyonce herself
Yeah.
and be a part of the Beehive. Like we did that for people. And so I think we made 75 out the gate and we did pre-sale tickets. Gone day one. And I was blown away. I was like, I need to go home. I need to buy ink first. I need to go home. I need to print more of these. And I had to order more lanyards so we could, you know, put these together. So we had in our I love my spouse to death because she was very so efficient. She was like, just let's create a little kitchen operating system here with a dining room table of somebody's printing, somebody's cutting, somebody's laminating, the next person is putting it on a lanyard, you know. So we had a system and the line was out the door before we even opened for the evening. And I was just so blown away by how many people just wanted to be a part of this event and a part of something that was happy and positive.
Mm. Yeah. Stories like that help remind me that like we are on the right side and like we have so many more allies that we even know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because every so often it sounds like we don't, and it gets very demotivating. But it's only because the loud people are loud.
Mm-hmm.
And like compassion doesn't sell somehow. Community doesn't always sell, which is weird because it's
Weird.
something we all want. We all want to belong and we all
Mm-hmm.
can and do belong. So it's like, why does that not feel like it's winning right now? But okay. We talked about a couple things from the past. Cathy, you mentioned World Pride. And one of the questions that I've been asking people since I'm also here in DC and we hosted World Pride earlier this year. So for each of you, when you hear the word pride, so it could be the event, the experience, the feeling, what does pride mean to you?
Mm. Well, so the joke part of it is that I think when you work in, the advocacy orgs, right? Like, whoo, Pride means a really busy, hard month.
Mhm.
But it's like the highlight of the year, right? Working the table for the 2 days over World Pride and meeting just like hundreds of people that were so excited to see that we were still there, right? Like that we hadn't gone away, given like all the things that are happening, and that we were a space for people to come together when things are like so bad. It was so empowering. And we walked at Pride with a ton of the trans service members who are being kicked out. And we all wore shirts this year that said, let them serve. And the crowd, this is what pride means to me. It's going to make me tear up. The crowd started chanting, let them serve.
Mm.
And then we, as a group, started chanting, let them serve and let us serve. And the collective power and just the spirit that was in the air from that, like, really lifted me up. And I think it lifted us all up for the fight that was coming, as we were going to be facing like all these separations of our trans service members in the months ahead. I'd go back to that moment of holding hands with folks as we marched, and as everyone lining the streets shouted, "Let them serve," and we shouted it back, like, that gives me the power to keep going and fight for the rest of the year. And it lets me know, like, we're not alone. And no matter how much it might seem like everyone is against you, like, that is not the case. Because I think back to the thousands lining the streets, and we were all on the same page.
For better or worse, there were some years in the past decade where maybe pride felt not it wasn't needed, or like the pride celebration, but like we won. We're like things are better and we're not going back. And then life happens and you're like, I'm so glad we still have this. And as you were saying, in all the complicated and not great parts of this year, that still happened. And that happened right here in DC. Um, so it's like one of these reminders of, I don't know, blah, 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 silver lining above the cloud or dark before dawn or any of these things that are like, there's always something you can like find hope in. And having that experience is definitely something that's going to keep us going as we continue to navigate these uncertain times. So, how about you, Ashley? What does pride mean?
It means so many things, and it's important that we have pride 365.
Mhm.
Nobody can shine our own light like we can as a community. And so it's so important to, if you can, continue to stand tall and be with community. And if you can serve openly, serve openly. If you can lead boldly and just support one another. And it's just so empowering to see people still showing up, still standing tall with pride. That just signifies to me that there's always hope, right? And so there's so many things we could say about pride, but the hearing Cathy talk about the parade and how powerful that was, and just being able to see those folks march together and know what they're actually going through behind the scenes is just so incredibly powerful. And for folks to show up to Pride, knowing what was going on, and it's World Pride in DC, like that just, it means a lot to show that no, we're still here, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, we are. We're here. 365 days, sometimes 366. And also part of Pride is a great time to come together and see that and have that memory, that remembrance, that thing that we can look back to when we go back to work and we go back and face the hard challenges and hard battles. And it's like both of these things are true at the same time. All the people that were there still exist. All the support that was there is still there. All the community, all the love, it's still there. And like, yeah, yeah.
That simple message of we're not going to be erased.
Yeah. And we're coming together. At the end of every episode, I have a few rapid fire questions. And since this one's a two-parter, I'm going to ask a couple of them now, and then we'll save the rest for the next episode. So, are you ready? So first rapid fire question for either of you. And whoever goes first for this one will go second for the next one. So whoever wants to take it can take it. What is something that inspires you and why?
I'm inspired by all the current trained service members who are still actively serving their country as they navigate the process of being kicked out. Every day, I'm in awe of the strength that it must take to be told your service doesn't matter and yet also still be expected to like do your job. These folks are so brave and serve with so much honor. I wish everybody could see how strong and powerful this group of people is. Yeah.
I am continually inspired by all of our service members. And I'm particularly inspired that we just had election night in 2025, and we just showed that you can run a successful campaign and win without throwing our trans community under the bus. And that is inspiring to me, to know that there are folks that don't run away from our community. There are folks that run to our community, support and uplift us, and stay true to their word. So it's truly inspiring and gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah. It's an inspiring time.
Mm-hmm.
And like for the people who won and run, like you said, they run towards our community instead of running away. I think there's that other part that's a little bit the hardest part about our queer community is like we're everywhere, right? Like it's not like, oh, queer people come from a queer community. No, queer people come from every community.
Yeah.
So when people run towards us, it's actually you're keeping us with you.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of volunteer work for a queer affirming organization with like churches, and it's a very hard journey because sometimes you're like, we have to keep this out of us. It's like, no, we grew up next to you and we're also there. So when you say you have to keep us out, it's actually you're pushing us out of the community that we started with.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't always see that. But yeah, it's great to have outspoken allies being part of this community. Okay. So you both were warned. So do you have a favorite joke that you would like to share?
Of course. How do you organize a space party?
No.
You plan it.
Okay, I've got one. What do you call the parent of a trans child? I don't know, but I can see right through that joke. Transparent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love asking that question. And I'm glad you both had something to share because they're both good. And I have this way sometimes of taking a joke and like going further with it. Whatever, I'll share it. So there was this thing. It's like, when is a door not a door?
Mm-hmm.
When it's ajar, like open.
That's great. That's great.
That's a good one.
So what I did, because why not? I'm an adult. I turned that into like a 2-minute magic trick. And then like, because it works anywhere where there's a door, you're like, all right, I'm gonna like change this door into something else. I'm at a bar, I'm at a restaurant, and I'm just like, I didn't make this door. It's wood, it's glass, it's whatever. You open it, you close it. It's like it's a regular door. You get people to say a magic word, you like rub your hands, and then you wait. You're like, okay, you ready? Okay, so it started as a door, and now you just like open a little bit, and like it's a jar. And then you like walk away, and they're like, how did you take 2 minutes of my life to get there?
Right.
So anyone can take that. It's really fun. It's terrible. And like the buildup is the best worst part of it. Because everyone's looking at it. They're like expecting something to actually happen.
Something
And then
grand.
you do it,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, that internal, like, how dare you? Anyway, I'm an adult and jokes are important. So, as this episode will be released either Veterans Day or the day before, would you like to leave a Veterans Day message to our audience?
Definitely. It's always important to pause and give thanks to every service member, veteran, family member that's listening out there. Thank you for not only your courage, but your resilience and all the sacrifices that you make and continue to make for this nation. Reflecting back, it's weird. So last year, I had the absolute honor of standing at the podium as the master of ceremonies for the National Veterans Day ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery. And a lot of things flooded through my mind that day, but what I thought about most was each and every single service member and veteran that came before me that had to serve in silence, couldn't serve openly, had to serve in those shadows and never fully being seen for who they are. And so it reminded me that in that moment, it wasn't about me standing at the podium, it was about who was made visible by standing there. And so every LGBTQ plus service member and veteran, who has ever wondered if their service counted, if their story mattered, me standing there was a symbol of yes, absolutely yes. Standing there was an act of visibility, and visibility is in its own kind of service. And I know that this year has not been easy with all the renewed attacks against our community, targets hitting hard of our trans community in the rhetoric, policy, and just public discourse. But I want you to know that you're not alone. We're here for you. We're always going to stand firmly by your side, just as we have for the number of years that we've been an organization. And so we're here to support you, uplift you, fight for you in whatever way that looks like. And we'll continue to find the courage to stand boldly and serve authentically as us for your behalf. So thank you for your service.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Queer Changemakers. This is Justin, and I hope you are able to get some inspiration and maybe some ideas about how you can take action to create positive change in your life, communities, and beyond. See you next time.